You work 60 hours a week. You show up early. You stay late. You say yes when others say no. You follow the rules. You sacrifice your time, your energy, your health for the job, for the team, for the promise of someday. Someday, when the stress melts into satisfaction. Someday, when your inbox stops owning your mind. Someday, when you finally feel like a man who's made it. But here's the quiet truth, that someday never comes. Not in the way you imagined, not with the peace you thought you earned. And here you are, successful on paper, hollow in spirit. So, before we dive in, tap like and subscribe, but only if you actually find value here. And post your location and local time below. I want to know where in the world you're thinking with me tonight. If you're ready to think deeper, act smarter, and live on your own terms, subscribe to discover philosophy that equips you to reshape your place in the world. One idea, one decision at a time. You sprint after promotions and praise, unaware that each milestone chips away at the person doing the sprinting. It starts subtly. At first, you're just hungry. You want to prove yourself. You want to be noticed. You want to be worth something in a world that rewards the loudest, the fastest, the busiest. You convince yourself you're building a life, but really, you're building a mask. A polished, high-performing version of you that smiles when exhausted, accepts meetings that gut your calendar, and responds, "No problem," when everything is in fact a problem. And it works. That's the most dangerous part. You get promoted, you're praised, you're invited to tables, you're given more money, and then you're given more work, more expectations, more invisible strings attached to your dignity. You tell yourself, this is how life works. That discomfort is the cost of greatness. But here's the catch. No one ever taught you where you end and your role begins. And that's the exact crack where misery starts to pour in. You might have noticed it already, like the way Sundays feel more like funerals than rest days, or how vacations make you more anxious because slowing down feels illegal, or how every win needs to be shared online because if no one sees it, did it really matter? This is the cost of success without self-awareness. You climb a ladder that someone else leaned against a wall you didn't choose. And when you reach the top, you don't feel proud. You feel lost, suspended in a view that doesn't move you. Erich Fromm, the German social psychologist, once pointed out a painful truth. Modern man is so focused on having success that he forgets how to be himself. It's like pouring all your energy into painting a beautiful mask while your real face withers beneath it. Here's a simple but dangerous question. If we stripped away your job title, your income, your productivity, what's left of you? Do you know? Because many don't. And that's what makes success so quietly brutal. It doesn't kill you with failure. It kills you with applause. We are raised to chase credentials, not character, to accumulate, not actualize, to conquer, not connect. So, you win. But the real you? He's somewhere in the background, watching silently, wondering when he'll get a turn. Sometimes you notice him in the middle of a late-night scroll, or when you laugh politely at something that doesn't amuse you, or when someone asks, "Are you happy?" and you change the subject. If any of this stings a little, it should. That sting is the voice beneath the mask. It's not weakness, it's not failure. It's the real you trying to tap the glass from the inside. Let me ask you, when's the last time you did something slow for no reason, with no output, no return, no resume value? That's where your self waits, not in your hustle, not in your highlight reel, in the quiet, purposeless spaces you abandoned years ago. So the challenge is simple but deeply uncomfortable. This week, do one thing that adds zero value to your career, but brings life to your soul. Read, walk, stare, paint badly, call someone, breathe. Be a man, not a machine. Because machines break down from overuse. But men break down from forgetting who they are. You sprint after promotions and praise, unaware that each milestone chips away at the person doing the sprinting. At first it's thrilling. You feel momentum. You feel noticed. Someone finally says your name in a room you're not in. You wake up early, not because you have to, but because you want to. There's a hunger in you, not just to survive, but to rise. You tell yourself, this is my time. And maybe it is, but time is not always a reward. Sometimes it's a wager. You trade it for things, titles, bonuses, recognition, and the more time you invest, the more you need it to work out. Because the deeper you go, the harder it is to walk away. You start chasing not just results, but relief. Relief from insecurity, relief from doubt, relief from the feeling that maybe you're not enough without the role. But that's the thing, no role will ever be enough. Because deep down, you didn't start this journey to play a role. You started to prove that you matter. So you polish, you rehearse, you curate your tone, your calendar, your coffee order. You build a high-functioning persona stitched together with grit and urgency, and you call it success. But what if it's just a mask? You wear it well, everyone compliments it. He's on the rise. She's a machine. They're killing it. And maybe that's true. But slowly, something inside starts asking questions. Why do you feel most alive when you're exhausted? Why do compliments land like sugar highs and crash just as fast? Why do you fear weekends more than deadlines? Because under the mask, you're not rested. You're not present. You're performing. You smile at clients with a jaw that's sore from clenching. You accept praise with a heart that doubts if any of it is real. You say, I'm fine, with the emotional range of a vending machine. And again, it works. Your performance becomes so seamless that even you start to believe it. But here's the cost. You don't know what you really want anymore. You only know what's expected. You only know how to deliver, not how to desire. Think of it like this. You're on a treadmill that only speeds up when you succeed. It rewards you with faster pace, higher incline, more applause, until you can't breathe. But the crowd still claps, so you keep running. And when you finally do stop, burned out, bitter, and unsure, you realize you were never chasing passion, you were fleeing irrelevance. That's what most modern ambition is, an escape from the fear of being invisible. Erich Fromm understood this perfectly. He said that society teaches us to possess things, status, control, rather than to be. You don't ask, who am I becoming? You ask, what do I have to show for it? And the answer may be a corner office, a luxury apartment, a wardrobe of navy suits and beige Sundays. But here's the real question. Do you feel alive? Because so many men don't. They feel managed, efficient, marketable, but not alive. They've mastered performance, but forgotten presence. And the most tragic part? No one claps when you reclaim your soul. No one throws a party when you say no. No one uploads your boundaries to LinkedIn. So you hide your burnout like a blemish. You treat your therapist like a guilty pleasure. You wait for some mythical balance to find you. Spoiler, it won't. Balance isn't a reward for hard work. It's a rebellion against the lie that your worth is your output. So here's your challenge. This week, reject one invitation, turn down one offer, say no to one thing that flatters your mask but starves your real self. And when you do, don't explain, just feel it. Feel what it's like to not perform, to not be useful, to just be. It will feel strange. And that's the point. Because if being yourself feels unfamiliar, it's time to remember who that even is. You wake up to another Monday, and the first thing you check isn't the weather or your breath or your body. It's your calendar. Meetings, deadlines, calls, follow-ups, each one an invisible thread binding your day together like a script you didn't write. And yet, you play your role, flawlessly. Because over time, your identity has fused with your performance. You no longer do a job, you are your job. It's why the first question people ask at parties is, What do you do? Not what moves you, not what's on your mind, but what do you do? That's not just small talk, that's conditioning. It's a quiet reminder that your worth is measured by your usefulness, by how cleanly you fit into the machine. This is the performance identity trap, and it's built so subtly that most people never see it. You start believing that your resume is your biography, that your inbox is a measure of your importance, that your productivity is a moral virtue. You wear your busyness like armor. You say things like, "I've just been swamped lately," as if drowning is a badge of honor. It feels safe, purposeful, even noble. But slowly, your inner world goes silent. You stop asking what you need. You stop noticing what feels good. You stop wondering who you are when no one is watching. Because every hour becomes a transaction. You trade time for approval. You trade energy for influence. You trade authenticity for access. And the scariest part, you don't even resent it because it works. You get the seat at the table. You get the respect. You get the nods from people who barely knew your name last year. But late at night, when the laptop's closed and the house is quiet, there's a strange echo inside you. Not sadness, not joy, just absence. Like something important is missing, but you can't name it because you've spent years becoming what the world wanted and forgot to ask what you wanted. It's like you built a beautiful prison, brick by brick, with LinkedIn endorsements as mortar. Even your language shifts. You don't say, "I feel tired." You say, "I need to be more productive." You don't say, "I miss myself." You say, "I'm just in a busy season." You don't say, "I'm scared to slow down." You say, "I'll rest once I finish this quarter." But here's the truth. There is no finish line. The system you're in isn't built to complete you. It's built to consume you. And your mask? It doesn't age gracefully. Eventually, it cracks. It demands more polish, more energy, more numbing, more pretending. Until one day you catch your own reflection in a mirror or a window or someone else's eyes, and you don't recognize it. Fromm called this the alienation of modern man. Not a physical exile, but a spiritual one. You're here, but not really. Alive, but absent. Functioning, but not feeling. Visible, but unknown, even to yourself. So what's the way out? Not a new job title, not a better task manager, not a morning routine with matcha and breath work, but a simple, terrifying act, disconnecting identity from achievement. You are not your output. You are not your metrics. You are not your follower count or your salary band or your supervisor's opinion. You are a human being, not a brand. Here's a quiet challenge. Go a full day without introducing yourself by what you do. When someone asks, resist the script. Tell them what you love, what you're curious about. Tell them something real. Watch their face. Some will be confused, some will be delighted, some might even open up. But you'll feel something shift. A tiny crack in the cage you've built. A bit more air, a bit more you. Because the goal isn't to stop performing entirely. It's to remember that you were someone before the performance began. And that person is still in there, waiting for a cue that never comes, unless you give it. The higher you climb the ladder of approval, the more every rung trembles beneath your anxious footing. That's the paradox no one tells you about status. It feels powerful until you realize how fragile it is. You spend years building a name, a presence, a brand. And once you have it, your mind starts to whisper, don't lose this. Don't upset the client. Don't say the wrong thing. Don't take too long to respond. Don't stop posting. Don't rest. It's like owning a glass house in a hailstorm. Beautiful, impressive, but always under threat. Because status isn't freedom, it's surveillance. And when you start depending on it, when your value becomes intertwined with being seen, being praised, being admired, you begin to shrink yourself just to preserve the image. Suddenly, you're not working for purpose. You're working to maintain the performance. You show up to rooms not to contribute, but to protect your seat. You say yes when you should say no. You nod at things you don't believe in. You smile while your soul winces, all for the illusion of security. But let's tell the truth. Status is rented, not owned, and the rent is paid in self-betrayal. You might notice it in small ways, like how you hesitate before saying something honest, or how you change your tone to match the people above you, or how you feel a pinch of envy when someone else wins, even if you like them. It's subtle, it's slow, but it's corrosive, because deep down, you know, the version of you that wins approval isn't the full version of you. It's the trimmed version, the filtered version, the safe version. And every time you withhold the rest, you make a tiny withdrawal from your integrity. One day, those withdrawals start to add up. You wake up anxious, even on days with no meetings. You scroll past other people's success and feel smaller instead of inspired. You question your worth if you're not being watched, praised, or copied. This is the status scarcity spiral. The more you chase it, the more you need it. The more you need it, the more it owns you. And the tragedy is this: you can be admired by everyone and still abandoned by yourself. Fromm warned of this emptiness, the psychological trap where external validation replaces inner truth, where having replaces being. He believed we must shift from having esteem to being self-aware. Not "I am respected," but "I am real." Not "I am seen," but "I am whole." But that shift isn't easy, because status tastes good. It gets you indoors. It earns you nods. It makes your parents proud and your peers jealous. So why give it up? You don't have to, but you do have to question it. Ask, what am I sacrificing to stay admired? What opinions do I silence just to stay safe? What would I do differently if no one were watching? Because that answer, that's who you are. Not the version with the slick pitch deck. Not the one who knows when to laugh at the boss's joke. Not the one who measures every move, but the you that doesn't need applause to speak truth. The you that doesn't shrink to fit a role. So here's a quiet rebellion. This week, say one true thing that risks your image. Speak up in a meeting. Disagree gently. Tell someone you're tired of pretending. It doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be honest. Because every act of honesty is a rung on a new ladder. One that doesn't shake when you climb it. And at the top, not status, not admiration, but peace. Trophies pile up while relationships thin out, leaving you full of wins yet famished for warmth. It's the great irony of achievement. You succeed, and somehow, you become lonelier. At first, you tell yourself it's temporary. You miss birthdays. You skip dinners. You flake on plans with the same people who cheered for you before anyone else knew your name. And you think, they'll understand. I'm building something. But years pass, and one day you look around your life and realize you've been building alone. You've made it. But no one knows what it cost. Because success, as it's sold today, demands emotional starvation. You feed the machine your time, your attention, your relationships, and it spits back numbers, metrics, claps from strangers. But no one hugs you when you close the deal. No one holds you after a 16-hour day. No one sees the part of you that just wants to be held, not hailed. Fromm understood this deeply. He wrote that modern man has become a consumer even in relationships, swapping connection for convenience, vulnerability for performance. We don't build intimacy, we curate it. We text instead of talk. We scroll instead of sit. We post instead of share. You become more comfortable presenting a version of your life than actually living it. And if you're honest, you felt it. That slow ache when you realize you don't really know your friends anymore. That quiet sadness when you realize they don't really know you either. Because you've been busy, not just with work, but with being someone worth admiring. Even at home, your phone hums like a leash. A new email, a new alert, another urgent thing to check. You're there, but not really. a ghost in your own living room. And when you finally do try to connect, you're tired, distracted, number. You ask the right questions, but your eyes drift to the screen because you've forgotten how to be with people without performing for them. This is what success without emotional wealth looks like: a stunning penthouse with no one to cook for, a luxury car with silence in every seat, a life that looks impressive but feels unshared. You say, "I'm just introverted." Maybe. But are you introverted? Or are you starving for connection so badly you've learned to fear the hunger? Because real relationships ask for something you haven't been taught to give: time, presence, messiness, being known without a script. It's uncomfortable. You don't get to control how you're seen. You don't get to optimize how you're understood. You don't get to filter your flaws into something likable. You just show up and hope that's enough. But when it works, when someone sees the real you, not the resume version, that's when you feel full again. Not with praise, not with followers, but with belonging. And the cost? A little vulnerability, a little time, a little willingness to say, "I'm not okay today," or "I miss you," or "I don't want to talk about work." So here's a small but serious challenge. Pick one person in your life who matters, but who you've let drift into the background. Reach out. No agenda, no update, no highlight reel, just presence. Send a voice note. Show up at their door. Or better yet, sit with them, phones off, masks off. Let them see the version of you that doesn't win anything, but feels everything. Because in the end, no one at your funeral will talk about your revenue. They'll talk about your laugh, your stories, how you made them feel. So give them something real to remember. Trading applause for authenticity, you design a life that success can no longer hijack. It begins slowly, like stepping off a moving walkway while the world keeps rushing past you. Suddenly, you're not in the flow of ambition anymore. You're standing still, hearing your own thoughts. And for the first time in years, they're not just echoes of other people's expectations. At first, it feels wrong. You wonder, am I being lazy? Am I falling behind? Because for so long, speed felt like virtue. Busyness felt like progress. But now you realize motion isn't meaning. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're becoming. So you pause. And in that pause, a quieter voice finally speaks. Not the inner critic, not the corporate script, but something older, softer, wiser. The voice that remembers what made you curious, what made you laugh, what made you feel. You might not recognize it at first. That's okay. You've been away for a while. But as the noise fades, something unexpected arrives. Clarity. Not the kind that fits into bullet points. Not the kind that gets you more efficient. The kind that says, "This is what matters. This is what I value. This is who I am." And once you feel that, success can no longer hijack your life. Because now, you're designing it with your own blueprint. Fromm called this the shift from having to being, from collecting achievements to living with presence, from chasing praise to choosing peace. You start to rebuild, not from ego, but from essence. You choose work that aligns, not just impresses. You choose people who see you, not just benefit from you. You choose days that feel real, not just full. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing applause, you become someone worth listening to. Not because you're louder, but because you're real. You speak less, but when you do, it's with weight. You show up less, but when you do, it's with presence. You produce less, but what you make actually matters. And yes, you lose some things. You might be passed over, unfollowed, misunderstood, maybe even mocked by people still caught in the loop. But what you gain, it's unstealable. Peace, integrity, wholeness. You learn to rest without guilt, to say no without apology, to wake up excited, not because your calendar is full, but because your soul isn't empty. You stop looking at your life like a resume. You start looking at it like a garden. You water it with slowness. You prune what no longer fits. You plant things that don't grow fast, but grow deep. And in that slowness, you discover freedom. The kind that doesn't need to be seen to be real. The kind that doesn't need to be shared to be sacred. The kind that can sit in silence and still feel full. So here's your final challenge. Ask yourself, what would my life look like if I stopped performing it? What would I let go of? What would I return to? What would I no longer need? And then begin, quietly, gently, like an artist returning to a canvas no one else sees. Like a man reclaiming himself, not for the world, but for his own reflection. Because in the end, freedom isn't found in what you earn. It's found in what you're finally willing to release. You've made it to the end. Breathe. Not the kind of breath you steal between tasks. Not the shallow inhale behind a clenched jaw. A full one. In through the nose. Hold. Out through the mouth. Again. Let the noise settle. You've heard a lot tonight. Not just words, but truths you may have been avoiding. About how you've lived, what you've chased, and who you've become to keep up. That's okay. Because the point isn't shame. It's awareness. It's permission to change. Not all at once, not dramatically, but deliberately. You don't need to blow up your life. You just need to stop abandoning yourself within it. Maybe that means walking slower, speaking softer, working less, but loving more. Maybe it means remembering what it's like to laugh for no reason or stare at the ceiling without guilt. Whatever it is, know this. You're not alone in this reawakening. Thousands are waking up with you every day, asking the same hard questions. And the answers? They don't live in your feed. They live in your stillness. Thank you for thinking with me tonight.